Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Doug Cannon joins us. He's President and CEO of NV Energy. Here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the Ahern Hotel in Las Vegas. I am delighted to welcome back to the program Doug Cannon. He is the president and CEO of NV Energy, and he promised to come back on the show, and here he is. So thank you for doing this, sir.
Sam, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Excited for the opportunity to visit with you and your viewers today.
So let's start out with a story that appeared. It was actually an editorial in the LA Times this morning talking about Diablo Canyon, which is the nuclear power plant in Southern California. And there has been talk of extending the life of that power plant 5 to 10 years to keep stable electricity going in California during this transition to renewable energy. The newspaper vociferously said, don't do it. What are your thoughts on extending the life of Diablo Canyon? Let's start there.
Yeah, and I won't start specifically with Diablo Canyon, but I'll speak more generally. Over the last few summers, we have seen ever increasing demand for energy throughout the Western United States. And in fact, here at NV Energy, we set new peak records last summer for the amount of energy that was utilized. And so as we're going through a transition from more historic thermal resources to a greater reliance on renewable resources, which I think is the right step to take. And I think it's the step we have to take. But as we go through that transition, I do think that there's wisdom in doing that in a very thoughtful and a very deliberate way, so that we ensure that we do have enough resources to meet the continuing growing load. As we do rely more and more on renewables, many of those don't work around the clock the same way our historic thermal resources worked. And so to make sure we get the battery storage in place, to make sure we get other forms of storage in place, so we have that really reliable, really stable energy supply, there is wisdom in having a very thoughtful transition period.
And you know, that seems to me really a discussion point that hasn't been had, which is how long a period is this transition going to be? Because it seems to me with the issues that you raised last summer, with power shortages in California that then reverberated over into Nevada, that maybe we should not be looking at 10 minutes from now, but 5, 10, 15 years in terms of a transition. Is that a more realistic look at this?
Yeah, I think it does need to look to be a longer term transition. Of course, here in the state of Nevada, as we look at the way policy makers here in the state have addressed these issues. For example, the state policy at this point is that we'll be at 50% renewables by the year 2030. Well, that's given us a transition period to be able to work through, to add more renewables, to work through planning processes with the Public Utilities Commission and other stakeholders so that we can get to that 2030 goal in a very deliberate, thoughtful way without increasing cost to our customers in a significant way. As we talk as a state, we talk about being carbon free by 2050. That's been the talk amongst policymakers. Now, that's not the state law yet, but that has certainly been the chatter around with policymakers, and there have been some policy statements made by the legislature around that 2050 date. And what we're doing at NV Energy right now is going along a path where we assume 2050 is kind of the target that we're trying to work toward. And so it does give us years in which to make sure we can go through this transition and do it in a way that maintains system reliability, but also gives us a chance for technology to catch up a little bit. We don't have all the answers today, and we need to give technology in battery storage, in renewable energy development, around many other energy sources time to catch up with this thought that we're truly going to have a carbon-free grid. And so I think having that time frame built in is going to help all of us have a better outcome in the end.
And does that also help out in terms of not leaving you with stranded assets, i.e. power plants that may be natural gas that will actually live out their lifespan before being retired, rather than being an additional cost to the public in terms of dual?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the nice part is here in Nevada, we have what's called the integrated resource planning process, where we do in fact submit a plan to the Public Utilities Commission every 3 years. And that plan looks out decades, not just days, not just weeks, not just years. I mean, it looks decades out, where we're taking all of our loads and all of our resources, and we're putting a plan together on how we can meet those energy needs of Nevada as we move forward. And it's an open public process, so a lot of other stakeholders get involved. So there is a good process set up in the state of Nevada to make sure very thoughtful, deliberate decisions are being made to number one, protect us from a price perspective, but number two, make sure we have a reliable energy grid going forward.
I was talking to a retired engineer the other day, and I was saying that, nuclear power has been frowned upon in this country for many, many years because of the hysteria over 3 Mile Island and Fukushima and what happened over in Russia. But the reality is that 60 Minutes showed video a couple of years ago of what was happening in Russia, and trees were growing back, and animals were careening through the forest, where we had seen what was, potentially a terrible nuclear meltdown, but where life had come back. So, do we need a PR change in name for nuclear to say fusion energy, which seems to be the buzzword these days, to allow us to take advantage of one of the cleanest forms of energy in terms of climate change, and deal with the reality of how it's being used already?
Certainly there's a lively public debate going on around nuclear energy or fusion energy, whatever label you want to put on it. And we see today different states here in the US approaching that issue very differently. Some states are very comfortable with having nuclear energy within their states, and we're even seeing technology advancements within that space. It's not these giant traditional reactors anymore. There are smaller scale modular reactors that are being looked at today, and it's intriguing technology. And certainly as a country, as we continue to explore how we're truly going to get to a carbon neutral or carbon free energy supply, we do need to look at an entire portfolio of options. Now, that said, here in Nevada, we are very focused on delivering an energy supply that meets the needs of our customers and meets the policy objectives of various stakeholders and policymakers within the state. And today, nuclear energy is not something that set of stakeholders is interested in seeing in Nevada. And so we continue to explore the solar energy, geothermal energy. We look at wind energy. We look at various storage technologies like pump hydro storage or battery storage to meet those energy needs here in the state. Now, if policymakers in the future want to look at expanding that portfolio to include other technologies, we're certainly open to it. But for us, we're very focused on delivering the energy supply that our customers want and policymakers and other stakeholders are focused on.
It was really surprising to me to realize the number of submarines and ships that the Navy uses nuclear power for already without an issue. I mean, I'm not saying that there haven't been issues 20, 30 years ago with nuclear submarines that disappeared off the map. But the fact that the U.S. government is using it to such an extent was a surprise to me. But let me ask you this, because do we not get a mix of electricity coming into Nevada from other states as part of the grid? And is any of that energy generated by a nuclear power plant, or are we too far away from that?
Yeah, certainly we do. And we go out onto the market and we do make market purchases for energy when it's economically the most efficient choice for our customers. And we don't know the source of that energy when we make a market purchase. And so it is possible that there are electrons generated at a nuclear power plant that do end up coming into the state of Nevada. We do not go out and specifically contract with a nuclear power plant. And we don't have any nuclear power plants as part of our fleet today. But it is possible that when we go out and make a kind of a generic market purchase for a given hour when we need energy, that some of those electrons could be, because we are not able to tell where every one of those electrons are sourced from.
And is it still correct that nuclear power plants need a large amount of water, which makes them not a good fit for Nevada anyway? Is that still true?
And that is certainly true under the traditional nuclear power plant. A large amount of water is required for cooling those plants and the operation of those plants. Now, there are certainly technologies out there, like, again, I'll mention this modular nuclear technology that's being developed by multiple companies. Those technologies claim to utilize less water, but again, we'll have to see how those technologies develop in the future. But today, kind of that traditional nuclear power plant probably isn't a good fit for Nevada, given the amount of water that is needed and just given the lack of water resource that we have in this state and the need to utilize that water resource for other more pressing needs.
And let me just ask one more question on this topic. So, for example, in France, are they using that modular technology that you're talking about? Because they don't have those old style, scary looking nuclear plants. They use a form of modular plant, do they not?
So I'm not familiar with exactly what they're using in France. I know the modular, there's even a smaller modular plant in development right now that actually is not in operation that I'm aware of, certainly not in the United States, but it's being developed. And there's multiple companies out there trying to develop this modular technology. And really it allows you to size the plant based on what the need is. And it can be as small as 50 megawatts, and it can be as big as 500 megawatts or even larger, depending on what the need is. And you can add these various components to it to increase the size based on the need. But we'll have to see where that technology goes in the future. But again, NV Energy is not one that we're not currently pursuing that technology. We're letting other companies, other states pursue that. What we're really focused on is using the great sun that we have here in the state of Nevada, along with storage, utilizing the geothermal resource that we have, and then probably looking at some surrounding states that have a good wind resource and utilizing this great transmission backbone that we're building to be able to bring that wind energy into our state and then use our sun and solar to export out of state to really build a great portfolio of renewable energy resources for our customers.
All right, let's take a break. More with Doug Cannon. He's president and CEO of NV Energy right after this timeout.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Doug Cannon. He is the president and CEO of NV Energy. So I wanted to ask you, there's a situation going on in the United States right now with Sinclair Broadcasting, upon which this program airs in Southern Nevada. But they have 172 stations across the country. They got hit with a ransomware attack a couple of months ago. And literally every system that the corporation owned went down. And it just raises the whole specter of the security of so many of our systems. And we've seen attacks against government installations. So my question to you is, what is the security that NV Energy is employing? And I don't mean specifically, but what kind of security are you employing to protect the customers of Nevada?
Yeah, this is a really big topic, Sam, in our industry, and one that we at NV Energy take very, very seriously. We are engaged with local, state, and federal officials to ensure that we continue to provide a reliable grid to our customers. It is true that certainly the electric grid would be a likely target for those who wish to do the United States harm. And that's unfortunate, but it is the state of affairs. And so we work very hard with our regulators. We make a lot of investment internally to ensure that we have very robust cybersecurity systems. And like you said, I won't go into the specifics of what those systems are, but know that we put a lot of resource into this area. It is one of, I would say, the top 3 risks that we see as a company. And so it warrants that type of attention from our organization. We regularly run drills with our employees on what are the types of attacks that they could face, how they could see those attacks, to make sure that they're prepared, for example, to deal with phishing and various emails that come in. We know that's one of the primary mechanisms that these attackers like to use, is sending in these phishing emails. And it goes much, much deeper than that. And so it is something that we're very focused on, both at NV Energy, but as well as an industry, to make sure we can continue to provide that reliable grid to our customers and protect that critical infrastructure that we have.
Is this something that you're having conversations with the Department of Defense over?
Yes, them and many of the other 3-letter agencies that are out there. There are a lot of conversations that happen between the electric industry and those various, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Energy, Department of Defense, and many, many others we coordinate with. We also have good relationships with the local FBI. Metro has an organization that looks into cyber crime. And so we coordinate with all of those various agencies to try to ensure that we're properly protecting the electric grid.
All right, well, in the hope of avoiding doomsday scenarios, let me ask you about EMPs, electromagnetic pulses. One that would go over the Las Vegas area, in the middle of summer when you've got 300,000 tourists in hotels with elevators, gas pumps that wouldn't work, air conditioning that wouldn't work. There are two admirals, and forgive me, I don't remember their names, but they're retired admirals who work on these kind of national security issues. And they've been on the program talking about this in the past. What is the backup plan if something catastrophic like that were to happen?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is a scenario that from our perspective is very low likelihood of occurring. But if that type of scenario were to occur, it could be a significant event depending on the scope of that event. Now, I think it's important to recognize if we're talking about an EMP type event, the electric grid is not the only thing that's going to be affected. There are so many aspects of our life that are going to be interrupted and affected. I can tell you from an electric grid perspective, we do have in place tools that allow us to essentially black start the grid. We actually run drills within the company and across the industry where we run through these various scenarios and say, okay, what happens if we essentially lose the entire grid and we have to bring it back up from the ground up essentially? We have old diesel generators on the system that could actually fire up and start the grid back up as we brought on different generation. Now, those old diesel generators are really just to start the grid. And then from there, we could add additional generation. But there are tools in place that would allow us to bring the grid back into operation. Now, certainly, as we get more reliant on technology, that brings benefits to our customers. It improves reliability. An EMP type event could challenge that technology. And we may have to use some of our older components that are not as susceptible to EMP. But we have that ability. It certainly wouldn't be back overnight. It wouldn't be a couple-hour outage, right? I mean, we would have to really work with various agencies, various other stakeholders to bring the grid back up. But it is something that we drill. It is something that we look at and hope we never have to test it, but it's there if we needed it.
All right, we'll take another break and we'll be right back.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and Twitter. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
I'm Jeff Gehrman, an investigative reporter with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm your guide for Season 2 of Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas.
You're in with every gangster and hoodlum in the United States. I don't go for that, Mr. Kennedy. I don't go for that kind of action.
I was on television accused of fronting for the mob.
Subscribe to Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas, Season 2, today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Before the masks, before the distancing, before the world changed, UMC was ready. Our response to COVID-19 began before the crisis did, with our own team of infectious disease experts who've spent their careers planning for this moment. With a pandemic response plan, we'd practiced again and again, and by blazing new trails in large-scale testing, including every patient we admit. Always ready. UMC.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and YouTube. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Doug Cannon. He's the president and CEO of NV Energy. During the legislative session, we saw attempts to cut off natural gas over time to citizens in Nevada, and it got blown out. And you were quite vociferous in saying we needed that to stabilize continue the stability of the system, along with Southwest Gas saying exactly the same thing. Is there technology on the way to improve things electric-wise for places like restaurants, for places like home cooks, that as we transition, they would have the same kind of capabilities that they get currently from natural gas?
Certainly, as we as a society look to decarbonize, there becomes a need in the market for those types of replacements. And so certainly technology to help homeowners replace natural gas, to help a restaurant replace natural gas, that's certainly being developed. But again, I think it's critically important that as we talk about natural gas, we recognize, kind of bringing this discussion full circle, that needs to be part of this very thoughtful, deliberate dialogue and go through a very robust planning process so that we ensure we continue to have a very reliable energy supply well into the future as we work through this transition. Because again, natural gas becomes a really important part of that transition.
And that's where we have to leave it. And sadly, I have another 20 pages of questions for you. So it just means please come back soon. We appreciate you being here.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate your time, Sam.
Thank you. And we'll be right back.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. We'll see you next time.